Let me just make sure I got the volume
TV,
here. Oh, you look great, Jack. Let me just make sure I got the volume here.
the TV industry started right after World War II, late
Okay.
40s. First channel on the air was KPIX,
That's San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Was it owned by CBS?
I don't remember who owned them. I think it might very well have been. It was CBS as far back as I can remember. And they had their transmitter on top of and some studios in the Mark Hopkins Hotel. And a lot of the TV stations staffed them with people that were working for them, the radio stations that they also owned. For instance, CBS had a radio station, and
KCBS, like?
pardon?
KCBS.
KCBS, yeah. And NBC had a radio station, and
What, KGL, Westinghouse, Channel 7,
Channel 7 was
ABC.
KGO, yeah, ABC. And their original staff was people that moved into TV from radio because the people that were available, that was it. There wasn't any TV people really available, particularly on the technical side. TV was a whole new industry. And at that time, the whole world, the whole technical world, required a lot of maintenance because it was all vacuum tubes. And vacuum tubes are like light globes. They have a finite life. They burn out after a few hundred or a couple of thousand hours. And so they needed technical staff. And I had worked as a technician first in the coin machine business and then some other things, and ultimately worked in TV, and KALW was part of the TV training program at the O'Connell School in San Francisco, and it was partially funded by MDTA. That was Manpower Development and Training Act that was federally put together from World War II. And I went to work there in 1966 in the electronics department. And if a student came in that wanted to be an electronic technician, he was almost guaranteed a job because there just weren't enough of those guys. And some of the equipment that the TV stations had at the end of the 50s and in the early 60s was very complex for its day and required a lot of maintenance. A videotape machine was in use in the broadcast trade before we even knew tape for audio existed, and the things were, the machines were very complex and very troublesome.
Jack, some people prefer vacuum tubes, like the old Macintosh amplifiers and that. Are they superior to the new development?
It's a, how can I put it?
A choice?
Fetish.
Ah.
Okay. And You know, they worked and they worked well. They're beautiful amplifiers, but you can get a better amplifier today for a lot less money. The interesting thing about it is that most of the distortion in an audio system at the low frequency end is generated by the loudspeakers. Nobody seems to ever talk about it though.
Mm.
Okay.
So like the subwoofers,
But that's where the
distortion is.
low frequency, the woofers and the subwoofers.
Could you offset that with a frequency machine equalizer?
No, it has to do with the physical size of the parts in a loudspeaker. There's a saying in the trade that says you can't get big sound out of a small box. And for big low frequency sound, you need big loudspeakers and big amplifiers. But anyway, back to the O'Connell School. In the O'Connell School, there was an electronics department, and there were 4 or 5 of us on the 3rd floor, and on the 5th floor, there was KALW, and one man, Ken Nielsen, and he had been there for a lot of years when I went there, and he was approaching retirement. KALW radio was on the air a few hours a day. There was not the demand for and the desire for and the money for a radio station that there is today. And so KALW first went on the air right after World War II, and back in the 50s, late 40s, and it had been in the works for a long time. I don't know how long.
What was the first school district-owned station west of the Mississippi?
It was the first district-owned station, and as I said, was on the air for, they'd turn it on and run it for a couple of hours to train people what to do in a radio station from the technical end, and they also learned a little about how to sit in front of a microphone. In 1970, give or take a couple of years, I'm going to say 69, maybe 70, 71, somewhere in there. The demand for band space, bandwidth, room for another radio station began to increase for FM. It had already been there for AM, and the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, had pretty good control over AM radio, and it was necessary if you were in AM radio. In order to be there, you had to be there, so to speak. And there were a lot of stations that were on the air 24 hours a day. We could run, for training purposes, we could run an FM station and turn it on once a week, shut it down for the summer vacation. And then the Federal Communications Commissions came in and said that you're going to lose your license because there are people that want it. And so we realized that it was a case of either use it or lose it. And so we had to upgrade KALW from a part-time training school to a full-time, on-the-air, 14, 15 hours a day, maybe 18 hours a day, I don't remember which. And Ken Nielsen, that had been teaching the program, was moved to manager of the radio station. Shortly thereafter, Ted Samuel and Leon Del Grande came in as the program director, and so on and so forth. Ken became the chief engineer, and I took over the training part of it, and that would have been early 1970s. I was there for 20 some odd years before I retired. I don't remember any exact dates, so these dates are loose. At the time I left, the industry was in a big dip. It was entirely different than it was when I first started. I had people calling me from all over the country saying, I understand you have a training program for technicians, and you could put them anywhere they wanted to go. We had, I think there was 2 or 3 of them over that time went to work for CBS New York. And at one time, a good portion of the people working in the technical end of the broadcast business were people that I had been involved in the training of. Then in late 70s, that began to change because the videotape machine that I mentioned earlier had moved up. It was less troublesome. You didn't have to have a technician there to hold its hand all day. Today, videotape is a thing of the past. We have little disc recorders, or in some cases, full solid state big chips that'll store program material, relatively trouble-free, and where if you were a major market station like any of those here in San Francisco during the 60s and early 70s, you had to have a technician on hand 24 hours a day. Today, the vacuum tube is gone. All of the equipment, not all of it, but a large portion of the equipment is throwaway, because where the old videotape machines cost $250,000, the ones today cost $250, $300, $500, and they're throwaways. When it quits working, you throw it out. And that's kind of the way it is. And of course, the need for a training program is gone.
So if a young person was coming to you and they say, Jack, based on your experience, could you give me some advice on should I go into the broadcasting industry? Is it going to be a lifetime job guarantee, or like as some artists say, you better have another job?
Well, I would say in this world, as fast as things are moving, I wouldn't depend upon any job to be a lifetime job. But that's the way it is. A lot of people do. And I don't know if I would go into the broadcast business or not. There are bankruptcies occurring, and that was unheard of 30 years ago.
What about these broadcasting schools? Are they? Do you have an opinion on those?
As I said, I don't think that the employment opportunities are there. Well, there's a job pops up every now and then, but it's always for a seasoned technician, somebody, you know, you might have to go out and do something else for a while, get your basic electronics together, and then take what you can get, and keep your eyes open. And maybe after a while get something a little more complex, but get your basics together first.
Do you have any views on shortwave radio?
On what?
Shortwave radio.
Oh, communications radio is, like cell phones. There's millions of them. It's a big industry. TV, community TV or cable TV or whatever you want to call it, is important, and it's there. I don't know how they pay.
Very little I understand of anything.
Yeah, I would suspect that they're not real big.
Some of it's ego.
Pardon?
Some of it's ego. You get your face on the tube.
Yeah. No, I don't know. If I were a young person just getting out of school, I'd go out and grab what I could get right now. I mean, it's a tough market in any of the fields. I don't expect to become a millionaire overnight, but there always is employment for good electromechanical type persons, people that can get into an electromechanical system and are good screwdriver operators, people that can fix things, tinkerers. These people aren't going to make an awful lot of money, but they always get by. And, I speak from my own experience. Never had to go down to the state office of employment, sign up for unemployment insurance or anything.
Now, some of these schools, I think it was like ITT, you see these ads on TV for technical training. Are they of any value, or are they hustles, or what?
There is some value, but again, when TV first hit the market, a good TV set was $400.
Oh yeah, very expensive. Small tube, small screen.
Yeah, a little 12-inch screen thing was $400 or $500, and that number stayed there. When color came along, it was still $500, partly because production costs had gone down, and partly because dollar value had gone down. And even today, you can buy a pretty nice TV set for $400 with today's dollar, which is worth a fourth of what it was, or a tenth of what it was.
No, those TVs, when they broke down, there were all these TV repair shops. Today, what are they making? Just throw away TVs, get another one?
Yeah. Well, you look at it. If it's something that you can replace at a reasonable price. But finding components is difficult for them. And as I said, the days of the vacuum tube where you can just pull one out and stick another one in and it's fixed, that's over with. It's sort of the parallel that I draw is sort of like that of the automobile. In the World War II days and afterward for quite a while, if you lifted the hood of your car up and looked at the engine, you saw an engine and you saw some wires that went to some spark plugs and all that sort of stuff. And a guy that had some mechanical
ability
or affinity could fix it. You could do it yourself. You can't do car repair yourself anymore.
Yeah, you need a computer and a technician.
You need a technician, and finding parts is difficult and expensive. And so the TV business is the same way. Both at the production of programming area, at the TV station itself, the broadcast facility, and at the TV reception, your TV receiver. All of it has changed dramatically from what it was 40 years ago, 50 years ago. And it will continue to change.
Finally, Jack, Leo Lee used to say, the founder of Western Public Radio, where I studied, that when you come into the Western Public Radio, leave that S outside, your politics and agenda. Do you think that some of these people today, or a growing number of media people, are bringing their political and sexual preference agenda into the studios?
Oh, yeah. I never had anything to do with that end of it. I never made any decisions as to what we would carry in the way of programs. There were people around that were interested in that end of it, but I never was really interested in the program end of it. I had plenty to do. And but there were people around that wanted their world their way. I don't know. Well, I just don't know. I don't want to get into that part of that world.
We see it every day anyway. We know who these people are.
Well, I don't know who said it. I heard some commentary one day on TV talking about people's knowledge of the world around them, where and why and what and how, and this person commented that people that wear green glasses don't see the whole picture. And I think that's true. When you let your politics get into your place of employment, you're making a mistake. And a lot of people do it. The other thing politically, I notice about the political world, TV, print, people don't understand the concept even, or the words, but when they get behind something, they're behind it, and to the point where any facts contrary to what they wish for are unimportant, and they have completely ignored the concept of cost-benefit analysis. Shall we do this? Oh yeah, that's a good idea, wonderful, whoop-de-doo. But if we do this, the unanticipated consequences could be horrendous. And I see less and less of that kind of analytical thinking all the time.
So it's more agenda instead of experience and
Oh,
expertise?
absolutely. It's more agenda than anything. And we will we'll take care of our agenda, and if it happens to hurt you, that's just too bad. So I don't know.
Well, thank you, Jack, through this walk through broadcasting history.
Well, I don't know.
It's been very interesting because you've seen about, what, 50 years of it?
Yeah.
So there's hardly anybody around like you.
Well, there are a few of us around, but we're officially old boogers.
Thank you, Jack Phillips, for being on the program. This is Peter Paul Brizola. Thanks for viewing and listening.
Hope you're going to